Toronto's Richardsonian Romanesque buildings, such as the Ontario Legislature, Old City Hall, and Victoria College, are among the city's most beloved structures. The style, known for its fanciful carvings and robust presence, leaves a lasting impression. Richardsonian Romanesque architecture is named after the American architect Henry Hobson Richardson, who made his mark in the mid-19th century by pushing Romanesque revival in a new direction. Richardson's use of rusticated stone, bold Romanesque arches, compressed colonnettes, and exquisite carvings combined to create a style that was distinctly his. So much so that the style was named after him, a rare honor in the architectural world.
I think from the very beginning he pursued his own beat. He was not terribly interested in the Gothic revival, which was around him. He was very interested even in those early days in the medieval period and in the material side of architecture. He was never what you would call a paper architect. He was interested in the tough side, the building side, the construction side, materials, stone cutting, all those things that had been very important in the medieval period. So he had that kind of rebellious side.
Indeed, the Richardsonian style spoke to the American spirit because it was rugged, audacious, and of the land. Gradually, Richardsonian civic buildings, churches, and schools became a staple in American cities and towns. In effect, Richardson's work helped to define the architectural vocabulary of the New World.
Richardson's peers saw a number of things that made him stand apart. There was a kind of underlying both clarity and pragmatism in his planning. He was an expert at figuring out floor plans and spatial relationships. Indeed, he was a romantic in certain ways, like others working in the Romanesque revival style, but there was a strongly reductive side. He liked to get to essences. As well, he was masterful with scale, proportion, and finally, monumentality. H.H. Richardson's influence on Toronto architects is not an easy thing to dissect. Some people, like the Toronto architect P.J. Lennox, knew Richardson's work firsthand and wanted to emulate it, wanted to be like Richardson. In other cases, the influence came in a very indirect way. For example, Mr. Fuller, the head of public works in Canada at the time, he disseminated the influence through the public works office. But the Richardsonian wave that came to Toronto came easily a decade or even 2 decades after Richardson himself had reached his peak.
There are a number, but a small number, of Richardsonian Romanesque buildings to be found in the city. Most of them are buildings that were important when they were built, either government buildings or head offices or major churches. Queen's Park was the first one, Old City Hall, the Stewart Building, and the Victoria Hospital for Sick Children on College Street. And in the University of Toronto grounds, Victoria College is an excellent example. So that's pretty much it. Those and the Gooderham building at Bloor and St. George.
When you're in front of those beautiful buildings, we just forget time to time to look to them. You know, we just pass. Our life is too fast. But I'm walking in the street with my head up, looking for those, I would say, a little message from the older generation. And I know they put a lot of soul and heart to build those. And maybe in that era of economic struggle, and they're still going, and those buildings will take 10, 15 years to build, piece by piece. I mean, every piece of stone is coming from the quarry. And I feel it in me, that responsibility to do a better job. Not for 2 years or 3, it will be for 100 years, hundreds of years.